My name is Franklin Adams. I'm born and bred in Stellenbosch, 1967. I grew up in Cluttersville. It's a historically colored community, and I think that was one of the first areas based on the Group Areas Act, meaning that in the 1960s, most of those people were living inside Stellenbosch, the central business district, and they were forcibly removed outside town, and so that is the history and establishment of Cluttersville. I matriculated 1985, and my first job in 1986 was at the University of Stellenbosch. Although I was exposed to student politics from 1980 to 85, actually my real exposure beyond high school was at the university, where I was the founder member of the then University and Allied Workers Union. I was working with the now currently Minister Ibrahim Patel. He was situated in Cape Town, University of Cape Town. And then currently I'm staying in Jamestown. I'm married, I've got 3 kids, Cuba, Jade and Lee Frank. My wife's name is Karen. I'm also a serving councillor for the Stellenbosch Peoples Alliance. Let me tell you about my activism years. As far as I can remember, like I said, from school I started as an activist, school politics, served on the Student Representative Council. Then I was also involved in various community structures in the 1980s, then called Stellenbosch Action Committee, where we had like a resource center. We had a community music school called Stellenbosch Cultural Workshop. We had a then very important structure, which we missed today. It was the Stellenbosch Advice Office, where we used to assist people with human rights violations. Now, I was actually serving in all those boards as a trustee, and then after school, I started my own business also as an entrepreneur. I was always in tourism. I had a passion for tourism, for people. In between, I had to juggle to maintain myself, my livelihood. That was balanced with community activism. After school, I also tried to go to the Technicon. I finished 1 year, and after that, because of a lack of finance, I pursued with entrepreneurship. And I was also the founder member in 1991 of the local ANC, and I served for various years as the vice chairperson for Stellenbosch branch. And very interesting, 1993 to 1995, we had a process where it was a national process where we had to integrate different municipalities, and the process they started was called integration process. Our name was Stellenbosch Discussion Forum. Basically, it was a representation between, on the one hand, the non-statutory side, which was the previously progressive organizations, even liberation organizations and movements like the ANC, PAC, civic organizations, and on the other hand, it was the statutory side. That was your previous representatives, like your guys who decided to form part of the regime, the MP and so on. And we had discussions and negotiations for 2 years to prepare the first transitional council. That was in 1995. Now, I wasn't privileged to serve on that council, only to find out 3 years after the finalization of the process, I was too militant, so I didn't fit in the ideals of Nelson Mandela. Now you will ask yourself, why? because I didn't feel that time and I didn't feel now that there's enough reason based on the challenges that we have to justify reconciliation. Because personally I think we didn't do good enough to settle the transition, looking at the millions of people who are still suffering, who are starving. And I think that is a direct result of the settlement agreement initiated by Nelson Mandela. I've got a great deal of respect for Nelson Mandela, like all the others. But I have a problem that he as an individual was putting on the pedestal, whereas the people like the Chris Hannis, Robert Sobekwe, Steve Bikwe, and all those brilliant intellectuals who fought also for liberation. Now, lately I'm involved in various structures like Jamestown and Rural Action Committee. I've started with a few individuals about 5 years back. Our main purpose is to look at the challenges basically farm workers are facing and those people living in informal settlements in Jamestown. Now, I've got a passion for that cause because I feel personally it is unfair, it is unjustifiable, it is actually criminal that after 20 years you have people living in a modern society who still doesn't have electricity, clean water, proper toilet facilities. And very interesting, the neighbors 20 meters from them is a multi-million rand retirement village. And 80% of the population in Jamestown are middle class. So now why is it that there's still vulnerable communities? It's a lack of interest, it's a lack of respect, and most of all is ignorance from the side of officials of the municipality as well as politicians. Because for the past 15 years, people try, even through our IDP process, this is the Integrated Development Program, from municipalities to put their core issues and challenges on the agenda unsuccessfully. Now, I even tried several times to put motion in the council and try to motivate why is it important that we change those people's life, and it is unacceptable that people, and particularly our kids, must live in appalling conditions like that. I tried several times, actually 2 times, to become a councillor. Honestly speaking, my first choice always to become a councillor on behalf of the ANC, because this is where I grew up, this is where I've got my experience as an activist, and I was unsuccessfully, and I tried to be independent twice. And 2011, I became smarter. I got a group of people together and explained to them what is my vision. They concur with that vision, and we decided we're gonna register an independent party called Stellenbosch Peoples Alliance, the acronym SPA, and we managed with little resources to get 1 representative, and that is currently me. Well, what is my current activities? As I said, as a councillor, I'm quite satisfied with the role I play, with the difference I try to make. But it is very difficult if you are part of the minority, the opposition. And in politics, particularly local government, it's about the majority. It's about the most hand going up. And I try to differ. It's supposed to be about the people. Because our mandate is a developmental mandate. Our purpose is to support people. Our objective is to help people and to build them. Currently, I'm not happy with what is taking place in the municipality. I think it's the contrary. There is too much vindictiveness by particular senior politicians as well as councillors. Take for example, I still try to grasp why they had to remove people who just try to make an honest living. That is the checkers traders. I mean, you're supposed to support people like that who just try to make an honest living for themselves and for their workers and for their kids. We tried so hard in the debate last year when they made the decision, that is the DA councillors, to convince them what we do is wrong. There's no justification. To no avail, we were unsuccessfully, and I'm still very unhappy because why? That is not our mandate, that is not our function, and definitely that is not our role to distract people, but rather to construct them and build them. Now, for the past 7 years, I started a campaign called the STAR campaign and the WAR program. WAR stands for the Week Against Racism. Now, when I started this campaign in 2007, I was on the verge to become unemployed because I was working in Pretoria and I was coming back to Cape Town, and I said to myself, if you come back to Stellenbosch, what are you going to do except try to be an entrepreneur and make an honest living to sustain myself and my family? What is the challenges at that time Stellenbosch is facing? What is the social ills we have to deal with? And it strikes me immediately, one of the biggest challenges we face in this town is racism and discrimination. One has to look at what is the three challenges for the government currently. It is unemployment, it's poverty, and it is inequality. Now, in my view, if you address the core challenges or the issues that caused racism and discrimination, to a fair extent you will address those three evils, that is unemployment, that is poverty, and that is inequality. Because we need to look at the root causes of these problems, and we tend to forget that. Now is the 7th year I'm running this campaign. Is it having any impact? It's difficult to say, because this is an issue people don't want to touch. They are so in denial. I struggle every year to get support, even from the municipality. I've got little support from the university side, but I believe even through the Project Hope, the rector can do more, because they themselves dealt with issues with regard to discrimination. Just last year, I've read in the Mail and Guardian, there was another incident from the side of one of the students, and because of that, they decided that they can establish a racism policy, actually a discrimination policy. If it's finalized, I don't know, but now you say to yourself, more than 100 years it took them to realize there is a shortcoming and they need a policy. I then myself tried through a motion to convince the municipality that we in partnership go out, do a survey and determine what is the level of racism or discrimination in our town. Now, there's an overall perception from the community, and this I'm talking about the majority, that Stellenbosch is racist. Now, well, it's a perception, but we need to test whether it's a perception or not. Is it a myth? Is it a reality? Hence, I was suggesting that we go and do a survey in partnership with the university. It was outright condemned by the speaker, and even I wrote a letter to the mayor. He even never responded to that request. And I was doing it on a formal basis as a councillor. Now, the reason why they don't want to assist me or go out and do the survey, I don't know. So This year, I will continue with my campaign, and basically it means I will, from the 17th to the 24th, I'll put up my tent in the CBD. There's a nice lawn, it's got nice historical value from the slavery side and the history of the slaves, the majority of people, and I will stay there for 24 hours, 7 days. And the purpose, I want to merely highlight the concern when it comes to racism and the issue around discrimination. It's merely an awareness program in a campaign. I want to stimulate debate. I want to ask people, let us talk about it. Let us get dialogue around the issue. And let us try to influence one another to see where we as a collective can start addressing this core issues with regard to racism and discrimination. This year, I hope the support will be more from the local people. But like I said, it's like I had quote the Secretary General Ban Ki-moon when he said racism continues to cause suffering for millions of people around the world. I look to all people to join the United Nations in our drive to eliminate racism. Now, very interesting, my campaign normally was in April, that is Freedom Day and Workers' Day. And last year when I was preparing myself for this year's campaign, I did the research on the United Nations website and I came across very interesting. On 21st of March, there is International Day for the Elimination of Racial Discrimination, and I decided I will change my date in line with that day, and that is in our diary is Human Rights Day. Now I continue. We must individually and collectively stamp out racism, stigma and prejudice, unquote, Ban Ki-moon. Now, what he's saying, we all have a role to play. And this is my contribution through the STAR campaign and the war program. And even if I must do it for a few years alone with a little support of people who can identify with the cause, I will be happy, because I'm not in the process to get any credibility. I'm just merely here to play my small part. Now, this is now from the 17th to the 24th of March. There's a parallel program where we will have a debate, where we will, this year I will invite local councillors of the municipality, and the theme will be racism in Stellenbosch, my view or my perspective. I hope it will be a success, and I will advertise it in the local newspaper. So this is all about the STAR campaign. I think this is a very complicated town with very complicated people. Personally, I feel the majority of people still struggle to get a sense of place. I also read it's the most unequal town in South Africa. Well, this is not what I say, but it's what is said nationally, provincially, and locally. I quote the rector of Stellenbosch, who used to say, if you still want to experience harsh apartheid, you must come to Stellenbosch. I once read, he said, Cape Town is not more nor less racist. I don't know what is meant by that, but the ultimate question, racism today, whether it's in Stellenbosch, whether it's in Western Cape, whether it's in South Africa, is it relevant? Now, this is a question individuals must answer themselves. Franklin Adams said, yes, because of my personal experiences, because of my witness around me, it is still relevant, and all of us have a role to play to combat it. So this is all about my campaign. The current by-election that will take place during this week, it was because one of the DA councillors decided to resign. Now, why do you think he resigned? He made a long speech in council, given explanation, his reason, but I really think, my personal view with my observation, the reason he resigned, it wasn't viable for him to be a councillor anymore. And that is the biggest problem. Why do you become a councillor? What is the purpose of a councillor? Is it for you to get monetary value, or is it for you to serve the people in line with their needs? And in this is the majority of people who still long for houses, who still looking for job opportunities, for business opportunities, clean water, sanitation. This is the role. That means developmental. Now, I don't have an interest in this current by-election because it's very simple. This is a ward they're going to contest, which consists of 99% of white people. Now, the current trend of voting in politics is based on race. The majority of white people support the DA, and the majority of black people support the ANC. Now, if that is the fact, why would I go and show any interest? Because it's a given that that ward, like they put in the posters, keep this ward DA. Now, I want to proceed actually further and say, keep this ward DA in white, because this is the fact. So, the woman or the candidate that will represent in the next week the DA, she's currently serving, she's got the high profile position at the university clinic. It's called, but it is a legal aid clinic. Falls under the founder of the university. I was very interested when I saw her on the polls, on the DA posters, and I said to myself, it's no surprise that farm workers struggle to get justice at that legal aid clinic. Now, ultimately, now your question will be, Franklin, what's your vision? What's the way forward? Where do you see yourself in the future in local politics, or national or provincial? Next year's election, people ask me, Franklin, what are you going to do next year? It's very simple. My answer to them, I have no desire when it comes to provincial or national politics. I've got an interest, I've got a passion for local politics, because this is where things happen. This is where, as an individual, I can play a role, I can shape the future of the town, I can make Stellenbosch work to the benefit of all the people. Now, for me to get that right is very, very crucial. I take you back 2011, there was only 2 mayoral candidates. Officially, it was even on the posters, on the polls of the whole Stellenbosch, it was firstly the current serving mayor, Conrad Sadiko, on behalf of the DA, and it was me, Franklin Adams, on behalf of Stellenbosch Peoples Alliance. Now, that vision is still intact. I personally believe, with the passion I have, with the drive I have, with my conscience, I can play a meaningful role to the benefit of all the people, whether you're rich or whether you're poor. All I say, let us bring a balance, because this town belongs to all other people, and all I say is, let us give a sense of place to all of them. So 2016, when God spares me, I hope I can fulfill my dreams to become the first citizen to serve all the people and change all of their lives. And I hope and I pray it is possible. But with the support of people and the help, I always say nothing is impossible. Thank you.